What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we've got another way too early fantasy football mock draft for you. Back on FantasyPros with a 12-team full PPR mock where we will be selecting second overall. Should be pretty interesting. Our roster: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But that's pretty much it. So let's get right into it. And while we wait, a quick reminder: if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there, and let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. But with that being said, taking a look at this mock, the first pick, Christian McCaffrey, not too shocking there. I feel for the last 3, 4, 5 years, he's been the consensus 101. Now, even in San Francisco, even with quarterback instability, he still will be that guy. So now here we have a decision to make. Do we go with Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, basically a running back, or the 101 at the wide receiver position, Justin Jefferson? I'm going to switch things up a little bit. I'm going to go with Jefferson. I think the last time we did one of these, I went with the running back in the early parts of the first round. So let's see how this thing works out if I go with Justin Jefferson and then see who's been selected and some of the other available players and how we can round out this roster in the best possible way. So after a selection of Justin Jefferson, you see a run on the running back position: Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs. I think Jacobs is going to be catapulted up draft boards because of what he did last season, but I don't necessarily know if the Raiders are going to be able to duplicate that offensive success with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that, Josh Jacobs, there's a really high chance that a lot of his usage goes down. Then afterwards, you see Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, Bijan, Nick Chubb, Tony Pollard, Kenneth Walker. There's some really interesting names here. So Bijan Robinson, the first rookie drafted, that is not a shocker at all. I'd probably draft him ahead of Derrick Henry, ahead of Josh Jacobs. Now, afterwards, you see Tony Pollard. I like him more in redraft, like this is, as opposed to Dynasty. Kenneth Walker, no more Rashad Penny, but the Seattle Seahawks did add running back depth early in the draft, so that's something to consider, but, he's still going to be the primary guy. Then Travis Kelce at the 201. That's kind of what I expect with Kelce towards the end of the first round, early second, like the last couple of years. This is probably going to want to be, you could argue one of the final times last year, second to last year, where Kelce is going to be one of these elite tight ends. Then Ramondre, Etienne, Breece Hall, the last, that group of tiered running backs, and then a huge run on wide receivers. A lot of great value here with Kupp, Devontae, Tyreek, CD, Stephon Diggs, Mark Andrews, and honestly, there's some still really elite talent at the wide receiver position available. I mean, you look at Amon-Ra, you look at A.J. Brown. With Amon-Ra, especially with Jameson Williams being suspended to kick off the season for 6 games, I'm honestly probably what I'm going to do here is select one running back. So maybe go with like a Najee Harris and then take whoever's available out of Amon-Ra or A.J. Brown. Or we could kind of punt and make this a faux, zero running back draft strategy type of thing where we go wide receivers to kick off the first 3 rounds. And you know what? I'm feeling a little bit froggy, so let's do that. Let's go wide receiver heavy. Amon-Ra or A.J. Brown, who do you trust more? I think that Amon-Ra is going to be just a little bit more consistent, especially with the fact that, Jameson Williams is going to be suspended and that Jared Goff isn't as run-heavy of a quarterback as, what the Philadelphia Eagles have. So after our Amon-Ra pick, you see Dalvin Cook, A.J. Brown. I was never going to pick Dalvin Cook. I think last year was a great example of the fact that he is kind of trending downwards, so I really don't want anything to do with that. Now here I could go running back, like I said. If I'm treating this in a prototypical fashion, it would probably be either Najee or Joe Mixon. I really liked Aaron Jones when Aaron Rodgers was in Green Bay. Now I really don't trust that offense at all. But let's stay true to our word and let's go with a wide receiver. Let's go with a wide receiver that, I'm personally high on. I think that Jalen Waddle here makes a lot of sense compared to, some of the other guys here. Garrett Wilson, I think that while I do believe he's the best wide receiver for the Jets, I could see Rodgers, there's a lot of pass catching options there. Bringing in Lazard, Cobb. I just don't know what to expect with that offense. Higgins is also another option, but I think that Jalen Waddle is somebody that's going to be a little bit more consistent than A.T. Higgins. So let's go with Jalen Waddle here as our third wide receiver. And here you're going to see an example of when we get to the fourth round, why, especially this year, I think that, you could wait a little bit on the wide receiver position, or at least on your third wide receiver, because there's still some really, really good values at the wide receiver position here in the fourth round. I mean, look, Amari Cooper with a full offseason for Deshaun, Michael Pittman, very tempting. So there's a lot of names. I mean, Mike Williams for the Chargers. So you could go in a lot of different directions, but at this point, we need to address the running back position. We could also potentially look at tight end with somebody like a Kittle or a Dallas Goedert. We could go quarterback, but I need running back help. So the guys that I'm looking at are J.K. Dobbins and honestly, Rachaad White, because to me, they're the next highest ranked guys. Like, in terms of upside, it's probably Rachaad White ahead of J.K. Dobbins. And again, there's a lot of free agent running backs that can find new homes between now and then. But as things stand right now, the Bucs didn't add any competition for White. Alvin Kamara is an interesting name, but he could potentially be suspended. That's why his stock is kind of that low. So here, I'd be okay going with Rachaad White and then maybe a James Conner. So let's do that. I know I'm going to load up on that position. So, okay. J.K. Dobbins still there. I think that James Conner could potentially be a little bit more consistent, be a little bit more of a workhorse guy for the Cardinals when Kyler Murray is, still rehabbing. So this is why I don't like the situation, because if I go with best player available and how I want to round out my roster, I would be going George Kittle here more than likely. And not maybe forcing a James Conner pick when I think guys like Isaiah Pacheco, a guy like Alvin Kamara could both produce similar type of value. So you know what? I've kind of talked myself into it. I'm just going to go with George Kittle here and then see what happens in the next round and if it pays off. So I'm going Kittle here, and then maybe there's a run on the tight end position, maybe not. So there's a couple tight ends drafted, actually. Okay, so that makes me feel a little bit better, just kind of showing you guys the draft board. Again, we picked second overall here. So after our George Kittle selection, you see J.K. Dobbins, makes sense. Hurts. So a run on some of the elite quarterbacks, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not high in the Tampa Bay wide receivers without Tom Brady, shocker. Michael Pittman, Hop, Williams. So again, examples of some really good fifth-round value wide receivers: Burrow, Watson, Terry McLaurin, Goddard, Lockett, Fields. I probably would have Fields ranked ahead of Lamar Jackson, so no issues there. Freiermuth, I don't know how Freiermuth was selected before a Darren Waller or before a Kyle Pitts. That makes zero sense. Really like the value for Calvin Ridley at the 606. I was low-key trying to, potentially stash him. But I can't be too mad about this because a guy that I would have taken a round earlier, James Conner, is still available. So let's add James Conner to the squad. I think it's a good value pick. Again, looking at our cheat sheet here, Kyle Pitts is still there, but I've got, George Kittle, so I'm not too worried about it. Wide receivers, I've got three very good wide receivers. As a reminder, they are Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then let's see, actually, now that I say it, I kind of forget myself. Jalen Waddle, that's what it was. Okay, so I'm going to wait on the quarterback position. I think I'd be very happy with, one of these next tier guys as well. I'm just going to add another running back, Alvin Kamara. So, it's kind of one of those hit or miss type of selections. Montgomery is there too, but Jahmyr Gibbs with the early round selection for the Lions, I think it's going to be running back by committee. So let's go with Kamara. Let's kick the tires on him. Again, Herbert is tempting, but we're going to go with Alvin Kamara here. And then, maybe at this point in time, select a quarterback and see who's available at that position. So looking at our draft board after our Alvin Kamara pick, yeah, Herbert goes immediately thereafter. Deontay Johnson, Montgomery, Dak, Deshaun Watson, some wide receivers again here. Treylon, Marquise Brown, Ayuk, Geno quarterback, way too early for him. Algier, Cortland, Pickens, Kadarius Toney, Khalil Herbert, Harris, Rondale Moore, Brendan Cooks, Kyle Pitts, Rashad Penny. So right now, looking at this list of names, running back wise, I don't necessarily love any of these names. I think we've done an all right job of addressing that position. So if I had to go quarterback, I would probably go with, looking at all these names, probably go with Tua or Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets, something like that. And I guess we can address the position at this point in time. It's not sexy by any stretch of the imagination, but if he's healthy, I like the outlook for Tua. So let's go in that direction, get a nice little stack with Jalen Waddle as well. So we do that right off the bat. Then we'll go with, a high upside quarterback afterwards. So looking at wide receivers, looking at running backs, I like, Elijah Moore with Deshaun Watson there. I think he's a talented guy. So let's add Elijah Moore to the squad. And then, honestly, at this point in time, just go best player available. I think that we're in a great position to go best player available. There's some rookie wide receivers at this point in time. I know if this was a dynasty breakdown, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison would be very, very, very popular names. But for redraft purposes, honestly, I think you could make the case Addison should be ranked higher than Jackson Smith just because of the situation he's in. And Jigba has to contend with Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. So now looking at the running back position, names that we could highlight. Let's see if there are any big names. I don't see anything that I necessarily love, so I'm not going to force anything. I mean, Jeff Wilson, running back by committee, Kenneth Gainwell, running back by committee, same with Raheem Mostert, same with really all of these guys at this point in time. That's why we have to get our running backs when we did. Let's continue to get value at the wide receiver position. I'm going to go with Michael Thomas. At this point in time, just kicking the can on it, see what happens, if it pays off or not. And then let's get our high upside quarterback here. I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson. Out of all the rookie quarterbacks, if we're just talking for a single season, I think he has the highest upside just because of what he can do with his legs. So I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson here. We do that, and then we're going to make one final selection and have this thing wrapped up. So let's see who the final selection for the squad will be. Looking at tight end, anything special there? Not really. Looking at the wide receiver position, I mentioned him before as a name, Jordan Addison, I think, and especially if anything happens to Justin Jefferson, could have some really, really nice value. So let's conclude this thing with Jordan Addison, and let's see our draft grade. We get a C+, so I can't say I'm necessarily super shocked about that because we went wide receiver in the first 3 rounds. You could argue in the first round we should have gone running back, but hindsight 2020, all things considered, I think we got some high upside running backs, getting Rashad White, James Conner. We got really lucky that we were able to get Alvin Kamara as well. I like our tight end situation. Quarterback could have been a little bit better, but we got some backup in Anthony Richardson. So I don't necessarily disagree with the grade, but hey, hopefully you guys found this useful. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them all. But in the meantime, again, if you guys enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. Give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. In the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.